This is Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park, and you're watching Montreality. I was a pretty good student. At least in high school, I started in AP classes, which is like the higher level honors classes or whatever. And some of those stuck, and some of them I didn't really. Some of them didn't. But I was always at my best with like art classes, because I always thought I was going to be illustrator, drawing, painting, something like that. My first job was kind of funny, kind of crazy. I worked at my uncle's produce farm, his produce shed, which is to say it was a warehouse in the middle of California where everybody was basically a Mexican or Japanese immigrant, and about half the people didn't speak English. I went out there, you know, it's all desert except for this, you know, you get into this one area and it's just basically agriculture, and they'd box up, you know, nectarines, grapes, citrus, whatever, usually in the summer, and I was just working in the shed, you know, taking the boxes, putting on pallets, the forklift would come. It was like, you know, minimum wage work. What was I in a previous lifetime? Wow. I don't know. That's a fun question. The things that for me that I struggle with they tend to come back to things relating to like staying focused, and like I just like to make stuff. I like to create stuff, and a lot of times I'll get my hands in like 10 different things, and really I ought to be focusing on like one or two. So what kind of animal is that? I don't know. Like, what kind of animals can't focus? You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's easy. Favorite cartoon character? I grew up. This is such a weird one too. It's so bizarre, so random. But for some reason, I always loved drawing Garfield. You ever see Garfield? Jim Davis. And it wasn't about his like the attitude and the like sarcasm and the, you know, he's like a lazy character. And
happy birthday, whoop-dee-doo, whoop-dee-doo.
People who sing like that should be drug out into the street and shot.
when I look back at it too, it's very like mainstreamy kind of humor. It's not super edgy or anything like that. But as a kid, I just loved the shapes. Like I loved the look of the cartoon, I think, more than anything. And it was one of the first ones that I could draw really well. I'd say I'd have two favorite video games as a kid. One of them was Metroid. They're both NES games. Metroid and Mega Man were my two favorites. And Metroid I loved because it was so vast and I felt like creative, and then at the end, I hope this isn't a terrible spoiler for people, but at the end, if you beat the game, you found out the character you've been playing with the whole time, which you thought was a guy in a spacesuit with yellow spacesuit and a red helmet, takes the helmet off and it's a girl. Like you've been a girl the whole time, which for most little boys is like, whoa, this is such a crazy, turn of events for a video game. Like nobody had really done that. Mega Man was just amazing. I loved the drawings. I loved the characters. Every level was themed after whoever the bad guy was at the end. So it would be like Airman. It was like the air level. Leaf Man is a forest, and they shot weapons that were based on their thing. And being an artist myself, I always drew those characters and eventually started drawing my own characters.
What's up, man?
What's happening?
Nice to meet you.
One more time.
Hey, Jay, I just want to say thank you.
That shit is fucking hard, though. That shit is fast as shit. I might have to bring out the young Jay-Z.
Well, MTV reached out to Jay and said, we want to do a show. And they said, who do you want to do it with? And Jay said, I want to do it with Linkin Park. And so they reached out to us. And my first response back was basically to send music, because he already had his Black Album acapellas available. So I just grabbed his acapellas, and I grabbed I think I had my MPC and my laptop in the bus, and I just threw together a few tracks, and I sent those back to him. I said, yeah, we'd love to do it, and this is what it would sound like. And they were floored. They were so excited about it. His response back was, oh shit. But the crazy thing was that they didn't actually know what they were even getting into with me, because little did they know, that's mashups were what I grew up like making. That's how I learned to make beats and how I learned to rap in the first place. I used to take whatever I had on hand, whether it be cassettes or CDs or vinyl. I would do mashups where I might take, Nine Inch Nails and Alice in Chains and Smashing Pumpkins or Led Zeppelin or Beastie Boys or Wu-Tang Clan. This is what I grew up doing. I had this crappy sampler, and all my stuff was like I'd make one song at a time, and it would take forever, and I'd send it to my friends, and then we just listen to it that week, and then I'd make another one that weekend. But that basically prepped me for what we did with Linkin Park eventually, and of course then Collision Course with Jay-Z. I mean, the idea of collaborating with Eminem is something that's like the fans. I've thought of it before. Eminem's great. I grew up on Actually, the funny thing is, I've known about Eminem since before he was ever even signed. I had a friend who worked with Rawkus back in the day, and he gave me a cassette tape of it was the Slim Shady EP. So that was before Just the Two of Us, which ended up on his record. That was when they actually used the Just the Two of Us sample. And then when the album came out, they couldn't clear the sample, so they did a different beat. But M was doing shows at like the Roxy for like 300 people in LA, like coming on stage like on drugs and stuff, and just like falling onto the stage, and then he'd pick up the mic and go crazy. And people loved it. I loved it. He was always, he's always been so great. With that said, I think he's great. If the opportunity ever arose, I would definitely, even if it was a thing where we just did the music and he just did his vocals, like I'd be down with that. I don't have to. There's no like competitive thing in it for me. I just think he's talented, and I'd be down to do something. We're in this mode right now where I think our band is very collaborative and very interested in doing different things. And if the right combination of elements arises, I'm open to a lot of things in a lot of different genres. I think one thing that's working for hip hop right now is that a lot of the barriers to entry are broken down. A lot of the barriers between genres and location, stylistically, whether it's the South, or the West Coast sound or East Coast sound or whatever other countries. I think all that stuff is kind of like, maybe not passé, but it's not as important as it used to be. Like for me. Like I do really appreciate substance and not just lyricism, but am I connecting with it first and foremost. And when all you're writing about is the same old shit that everybody else is writing about, I think that's not advancing anything, At the same time, like, okay, I don't want to hear like 100 songs about the same thing, but then some people write songs about the same thing, and it's amazing. Like I've heard Pusha T do songs about shit that I would be bored to death by, but the way he does it is great. Who do I like? I like Odd Future. I like ASAP Mob. I like Danny Brown. I like Action Bronson. But I grew up in a time when it was like my favorite stuff from when I was growing up was always like Black Moon and Wu-Tang and that kind of era, that like early '90s era of hip hop. So that's a lot of times that's kind of what I end up going back to. I get questions. I mean, I'm not just saying this. Like we do meet and greets with the fans before every single show, and inevitably there's at least a couple people that ask about Fort Minor every time, which I appreciate. And it's crazy to be. I'm just very grateful that I was able to do that album, and that people still ask me about it and stuff. And I never said I wouldn't do another one. So the door is open. It's been open. And I hope the time comes up, sometime soon that I feel like doing some more of it. I definitely say that there's a distinct possibility there'll be some Fort Minor music in the future, and whatever that is, when it happens, I don't want it to sound like the last thing. Like that's just just like anything I do with Linkin Park or anything I do at all. I like to keep things moving, so I want to advance it and again make the best Fort Minor I can for right now. One thing that's always like that our band has always been about I think from the beginning is, you know, when our first album Hybrid Theory came out, people thought, oh, this is, you know, a lot of rock albums at the time were very aggressive, and there was a lot of what they always use the word angst, which I thought was really like, that's almost like writing people off as like, oh, you're so upset, like, but not taking them seriously. And that was one thing about our band, and at least the way we always presented ourselves. I thought if you really got to know us, you'd know that when you came to the show, it wasn't about aggression and it wasn't about just anger. There was something cathartic in that, and that you would come to the show and we had smiles on our faces. You know, we were having fun doing what we were doing, and people came and they sang these songs, and they, you know, maybe they got in the pit and they you know, let out this aggression, but they didn't let it out in a negative way. And that was the main thing for me, especially, I mean, you can even, you know, bring it full circle to what's gone on just recently with Robin Williams passing away. There are negative emotions for people out there, and sometimes I hear it from some of our fans, I hear it from friends of mine who are close to me, and sometimes the best way to cope with those emotions is to like let them out, to talk to other people, to express yourself, whether that's expressing yourself through art or just talking to somebody else who you know is an open ear. I think that's important. I think that's something that, you know, you don't always get if you can find yourself in a position to be that for somebody else, then that's actually a very powerful position to be in. Thanks for watching. Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park and Fort Minor. You have watched Montreality.